Hi friends, welcome to the channel. In this video, I'm going to show you 8 practical tips to take your charts in Google Sheets to the next level. Let's dive in. Tip number 1, data labels. As an example here, I have a combo chart with 2 series with the data at the top here. The columns show revenue dollars across the years, and the lines show year-over-year growth in percentages. As you can see, the chart by default looks pretty horrendous. Data labels is a quick first step to make your chart instantly more readable by showing the precise values. To do so, double-click on one of the columns. The chart editor will pop up on the right, under Customize, under Series. If you scroll down a little bit, you can see the data labels box. Check that. Once you do that, the values will show up. You can do the same thing for the other series as well. You can go back to the series header here, select the other series, in my case, year-over-year growth. Check that, do the same thing, go down to data labels and check the box. Now you can see the values for both series. By the way, if you wanted to follow along, I have a link in the description below for you to download the file and practice as we go. And I wouldn't mind it if you click the like and subscribe button on the way back. Tip number 2, enabled right axis. This feature is very useful when you're displaying 2 data dimensions that don't belong to the same axis or scale. In my case, the percentages for the line don't go well with the revenue dollars for the columns. To present my line properly, I want the line series to be selected. I can here click on the line, or I can go under Customize and select a year-over-year growth series. And then I'm going to scroll down a little bit to Axis, and I'm going to select right axis. Now I have a second axis with percentages, and this axis is independent from the first one, and my line looks a lot better. Tip number 3, use contrasting colors. By default, Google Sheets uses all sorts of colors for charts. Now everyone's got their favorite colors, but I personally prefer different shades of the same color. My default is to use dark blue and light blue as a combination, but sometimes I also use different shades of green or orange depending on the theme. I think using contrasting colors of the same family make the charts a lot cleaner and more professional. To change the color of the columns, click on one of the columns. Under Chart Editor here, you can go down to Fill Color and select the color you want. So let's say I want to do dark blue like this one. When you have a dark background, you want to make sure that the font color is white or a very light color. White works well here for us. Then for the line, I'm going to pick a light blue to contrast with the black blue. Click on the line, go to the line color on the right here. I'm going to pick something like this. Now I think it looks great. Tip number 4, make all the labels big and clear. You've probably had this experience before where you're reading someone's chart, but the text is so small that you need a magnifying glass. It seems very obvious, but many people don't make the labels clear, and it's often as simple as just making them bigger. To fix this, when you're working with data labels, you can scroll down to the data label font size here and pick something that would fit well within the columns. And then you can double click on the other series. You can see that all the boxes are selected. That means you're basically changing the setting for the entire series labels. Do the same thing, you can scroll down here to table font size. I prefer to pick a consistent font size so that it looks consistent across. You can do the same thing for the axis labels. When you click on this, the label font size should pop up on the right. You can change it to the same font size. You can do the same thing for the legend, change it to 16 in my case. Tip number 5, remove grid lines. If you have properly labeled your charts, grid lines don't actually add a whole lot of value. If you look at many professional charts, most of the time there are no grid lines. Charts without grid lines actually look cleaner. To fix this, click on the grid lines and you'll see that the blue line shows up. That means that the grid lines are selected. There are a couple ways to do this. Under Customize, Grid Lines and Ticks, you can change the grid line to a white color, or you can also just go ahead and uncheck the major grid lines box. That would get rid of the grid line, and now the chart is going to look pretty clean. Tip number 6, adjust the axis. Let's say I don't really like this line to be eating into the column. I want the 2 data points to be completely separate so that it's super clean. What you want to do then is to play with the axis minimum and maximum. The left y-axis right now is showing data from $0 to $600. If I want to compress the entire column chart down, I would want to add some white space at the top. This means that I should increase the maximum. Let me show you what I mean. If you click on the axis here, on the right, on the vertical axis, you can change the maximum to something like 800. So a figure that is higher than 600. Now you can see that the white space at the top of the chart has increased, essentially pushing all the columns down. So now there's more space in between the line and the column, and it's not eating into each other. Tip number 7, link it to Google Slides. Most of the time when we make charts, they end up in a presentation. One very handy feature is to paste a chart into Google Slides. To do so, select the chart in Google Sheets, go to Edit, Copy, or Command-C if you're using a Mac as a keyboard shortcut. Then you can flip to your Google Slides, right-click, Paste, or Command-V. Make sure that link to a spreadsheet is selected and then hit paste. The beautiful thing about this is that when you make further changes to the chart, all you will need to do is to click a button to refresh. Let me show you what I mean. Say I come back to the chart here. I don't really like having the white background. I want it to be transparent. I come back to Google Sheet. I can go up to chart style on the right. Background color, I'm going to change it to none. And let's say I actually messed up the data, revenue year-over-year growth is actually 70%. So when I make changes here, the chart would be automatically updated. Then when you flip back to Google Slides, you'll see that there's an update button that pops up after you made changes to the chart. Now all you need to do is to click on this button and then boom, you're done. Like all the updates that you made are reflected in Google Slides. Linking is one of my favorite features. Back in the day, I would use screenshots and then paste the images in. They looked really ugly. Now, this is so dynamic. And one other benefit is that if you have forgotten which sheet you use for your chart here in the presentation, all you have to do is to come back to the chart, click on this 3-dot button, and you can click on open source, and it will take you right back to where the chart is. And then you can make further changes. This is just a lot simpler than in the past. Tip number 8, crop out whatever you don't need. This is another very neat trick in Google Slides. For this chart, since I have data labels turned on, I don't really need the y-axis values on the right. I have a separate header here in the slide already, so I don't need this header here. And it's very obvious I have years at the bottom, so I don't really need the word year. One very handy trick is that you can adjust all of this in Google Slides with the crop function. So right click on the chart, select crop image. I'm going to drag and drop here. You see this little mini bar. Drag and drop to remove all the things that I don't need. I'm going to do the same thing at the top. I'm going to do the same thing on the right hand side, and I'm going to do the same thing at the bottom as well. Now it basically crops out all the things I don't need. I can go ahead and make the chart a little bit bigger, and boom, this is looking good. There you have it, 8 quick tips to make better charts in Google Sheets. Using data labels, enable right axis when necessary, use contrasting colors, make all the labels big and clear, remove grid lines, adjust the axis, link it to Google Slides, and crop out all the things you don't need. If you need more details on any of this or you have other tips, please do drop a comment and let me know. If you want to learn more about Google Sheets and Google Slides, subscribe and I'll be uploading more tutorial. Take it easy and I'll see you next time.